It may not be nice to fight a Russian, but taking the belt away from a Russian is a completely different story.
After the fight, they threw the flag of Medvedchuk's Ukrainian choice organization at you, not a Ukrainian flag.
I didn't get it, but when they didn't grab me, I realized I understood. I thought the story was over. The kid was shot down, so I'd just leave him be.
Even just one defeat, that's it. I won't do it again anymore.
It'd be easier, but I can't do without it. The UFC is truly a powerful machine. It is indeed a mountain of gold. Oh, do you hear that sound? Do you feel the need to dope? Perhaps we need a league that permits only those who are doped up. Bam! It's 3 in the morning. I walk around like a zombie. I just cut off a piece of ice cream and pour pistachio paste all over it. I believe they enjoy it.
Harsh weather isn't an issue. Show respect by liking and subscribing to the channel. Joining the UFC is a new phase for Yaroslav.
You possess motivation, and there is a path that you have set out on, one that you can truly follow. Previously, when everything seemed to drag on endlessly, you appeared to be close to the path, yet you were not truly on it. It turns out you were waiting, pondering, and straining yourself with thoughts like, perhaps they don't want me. You begin to dwell on it. Consequently, you don't remain on this path. But then, you finally sign the start of the path and proceed forward. It feels different. You know where you are going.
And what's at the end?
We'll see in the end. I don't know. I don't see it. Well, there is something there, like glowing, so golden. And you think, well, I'm going to go in now. Maybe there are some reeds. I'll push them apart and go in there. We'll see. We'll see.
In an interview, you mentioned the UFC is on another level. How is it different? How does it actually feel to you? How can you feel it?
How can you truly feel it? To begin with, no one really knows the fighters in the other league. Can you actually name even a single fighter from another league?
I knew you.
Okay, more. No. You can't mention anyone, even though there are some really awesome guys out there. They are incredibly strong types. And there are those who are double champions, and there are those who are on an impressively long winning streak. There are some truly cool individuals among them. However, nobody really knows who they are. Because it turns out that the UFC is the absolute top. It's the #1 league globally, and those who are near the top or at the top in the UFC are known by many people. Half the planet is aware of it. Meanwhile, a guy in another league might be a champion, even a double champion. He might hold a belt and have defended it 4 or 5 times, yet no one will have heard of him, and no one will know him. Take my friend, for example, an American named Johnny Ablin. He was the champion in the 84 kilograms category. Unfortunately, he lost his last fight, but he was the champion of Belter and also the PFL champion, and he successfully defended those belts. Overall, he began by defending the Belterra belt initially. I believe he has around 5 defenses. He is an excellent fighter, yet nobody knows about him. I'm telling you now, you probably haven't heard of him, but there are some guys, things you've heard, seen, and heard, like Diaz, for example. They were never champions, never. These 2 brothers, whom you all know well, have a machine that presents things. We've already discussed how they manage to present everything in such a straightforward manner, even when someone is just doing some ordinary tasks. It's quite remarkable how they can simplify things so effectively. A person wakes up early in the morning, spending the entire morning and afternoon working out. They simply twist the narrative and say it like that. This individual prepares his own oatmeal, then he heads out, and nobody can stop him because he's doing it for himself. They'll portray it that way, and someone will just be sitting at home thinking, wow, he's actually making his own oatmeal. In the United States, Canada, and Mexico, this is exactly what we are cheering for. We have unique features that help you feel a bit better, you could say. Any vitamins and supplements you require, they provide you with everything, including proteins, by sending you packages. It's not that you can't purchase it on your own, it's just a nice convenience, isn't it? Yes, they send it to you in a way, and these products are fully certified. They take responsibility for ensuring there are no unnecessary additives, and they are accountable for it. They do it, I believe, also because they have a doping control system in place, and they understand that all the fighters will be clean from it. Well, of course, unless you're already doing something on the side. They have a UFC institute where you can come for rehabilitation, and you can even have some kind of surgery and then go to this institute. They will perform various procedures to restore you. They provide meals, and they have facilities like saunas, baths, and cryo-saunas, and it's all free.
Regarding the doping issue, I understand that this narrative is relevant in your sport. I mean, you notice that in the UFC. They monitor doping with great precision. How does this process operate?
To start, I find it quite impressive, because there aren't any steroid types involved, let's say, and they can come to test you at any moment. Even if you don't have a fight scheduled for an entire year, they still have the right to check on you. Personally, I've undergone testing 3 times for the long term, but I've been residing in Ukraine for several weeks now. They haven't made their way to Ukraine yet. So, I'm left wondering if they will eventually come.
They are going to come to check in Ukraine. At any moment, he might call you and ask where exactly you are.
Dude, we're here to see you. So you have to indicate in the program where you are from what date to what date where you will be. It's clear that you can't specify that I'm going to 6:30 to keep up with the pace, to walk. There's no such thing. So you write, I spend the night there, I train there. But if they come and you change your plan, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it's bad if they come and say we're in Irpin, and I'm like, okay, I'm in Lviv. You can't do that, you know, you simply can't do that. I must indicate that I'm leaving. They understand it's clear my plans are changing there. I don't know what I'll have in a month, and there, you must plan 3 months ahead. I mean, you don't say it so superficially at first, but then you do.
You mentioned steroid dudes. How often have you encountered them in your career? And how does it show? How does it impact you? Are you supportive if someone uses steroids?
Well, let's talk about it. You know, steroids are typically associated with doping. However, they're mainly used for recovery, enhancing conditioning, and performing well in a fight. Essentially, it's about recovery, helping you stay fresh constantly. If you begin strong in the first minute and maintain that through the 30th minute, it could mean you've prepared exceptionally well. Or perhaps you're using some form of doping, but this is such a shortcut, and I believe it's not entirely correct. Because when your body informs you, you need to get some rest, but that guy, he won't mention it to you. You'll be there, you know, and then you'll have to roll back, because you could break down somewhere, leading to surgeries and recovery time. From my perspective, based on what I've observed, many guys who dive into this whole situation often end up having surgeries. However, it's not the entire body, because the body can't handle the load in that situation. Furthermore, everything must be done under supervision to ensure maximum safety, to prevent injuries, and to minimize any potential harm. You engage in conversation with someone there, and while someone might share something with you, generally, everyone remains quiet. You mention you're on doping, and you observe him. He's just sitting there. You inquire, like, what? No? Never? You happen to stumble upon him there by chance, and suddenly, everything spills out from his closet. However, there are fighters who do not even appear to be using performance-enhancing drugs, as they rely on other supplements to aid their recovery.
Why is the UFC against doping? They care because they need fighters strong and enduring, yet torn up in the cage.
Health. And then there are these anti-doping commissions. These are different groups.
Are they afraid that someone will die in battle?
I don't know what they're afraid of, but the chances are higher, of course. Overall, I concur with you that if everyone were on the same page, doping and fights, it would definitely be more interesting. Just think about it for a moment. Perhaps we actually need a league that permits it only those who are doped.
In your weight class, 77, it's said that now it's just a swimming pool for competition, with unprecedented earnings in the UFC for this weight. That is cool. You arrived at the most competitive time, that's cool. But how do you evaluate your chances to reach the gold medal?
Well, first and foremost, I truly believe that this weight category has consistently been highly competitive. However, right now, if I view it from the athlete's perspective, I wouldn't necessarily say that everyone is a shark. But I do understand the reasons behind this situation. The 77-kilogram category includes a significant number of former champions. Former champions always carry a reputation. And because of this, it appears that there are only a handful of them. If you count, there are Edwards, Madalena, Bilal, Usman, and Makhachev. That makes 5 champions in total. There's Colby Covington, who was a temporary champion, having held a belt. So, that's already 6 champions. These are incredibly big names in the sport. Because of this, there's a lot happening behind the scenes. Plus, there's an emerging, new generation of fighters. These are just really exciting names. No matter who you end up fighting, you advance. You must go and select your opponents, as I don't have the habit of knowing who will be given to me or who I will fight. I go, even if I don't want to. The type of athletes who desire to sweat, who are eager to sweat, who seek to challenge someone easier or something similar. But what was your reason for coming there? Was it solely to sweat? For me, it's the opposite. It appears that the more you endure all these challenges, like sharks, firstly, you will build confidence, and secondly, if you're present here, you should simply do it. Don't worry about sweating, because regardless, you're destined to encounter the shark, no matter how much effort you put into sweating. Additionally, I had a conversation with Andriy, who happens to be my manager. It always seems to happen somehow when someone begins to stress over something, wanting to improve or do it better. Anyway, when it comes to sweating it out, it often turns out worse than if you just, keep fighting and leave it at that.
Now the champion of this weight category is a Russian, a Dagestani, Islam Makhachev. Does this somehow, relatively speaking, motivate you doubly, that you will have to meet him, perhaps, somewhere? Is there a special challenge for you in the UFC? Because there are so many Russians there now that has never been like this before. This is the number, and 3 of them are champions in weight categories. That's too much.
It depends on your perspective. More specifically, it depends on how the public might view it, for instance. If you merely observe it like that, you might not accept it. It's a fight, that's all. This is the story.
Has anyone ever accused you of this story?
No, absolutely no one has accused me of it. I just observe the trend on the internet now, noticing how no one seems to want to challenge them, and there's simply no business in it. In some amateur tournaments, perhaps I can see their point. And when I admit a team, yes, I agree with this and that. Especially considering that all these teams back their president, the Tsar, and they truly are like that, so perhaps it's not worth the effort. In pro sports, first, if you want to take the belt, you must accept any fight that comes your way. There's another point to consider. It might not be ideal to fight a Russian, but taking the belt from a Russian is an entirely different matter. I imagine that this scenario is a much greater motivation for me than just sweating it out again. Honestly, I don't think I can take on a Russian in a fight. I'm just considering the fact that there can't be a fight for the belt right now. It might be another fight, or maybe even 2, I'm not sure. My next opponent will definitely be the toughest. I think pick up that belt and bring it here to Irpin, though actually, it won't be just to Irpin, it'll be to Ukraine. Got the belt! I think it will sound somewhat different, and it will be perceived in a different way. It's not that he accepted a fight with a Russian.
Generally speaking, in the UFC, this kind of action is referred to as something like what Donald Trump, the current president of the United States, would do. He used to attend frequently, as he is friends with the president of the UFC. Did you sense any influence or attitude towards Trump? Promotion?
Who is very close to the current president? I attended a tournament in Miami where Trump made an appearance. Security was tight. And when he entered, he flashed this smile. As he walked towards the octagon, the crowd erupted with excitement.
Did you truly witness that?
I was seated at the tournament, positioned a bit higher, and I observed the entire scene, seeing everything unfold. And then the guys climbed over the octagon and had a conversation there.
Fighters?
Yes, fighters. Indeed, he mentioned a few phrases. I didn't catch what was being said, but they shook hands. I can't recall, but I think Murab has some vests or photos, maybe of himself, or perhaps not him, perhaps Tesla, Elon Musk, or in any case, they were climbing over someone, engaging in conversation with someone. It seems to me that back then, Trump also had someone shaking his hand.
Listen, I've frequently heard that initially, the American public wasn't fond of how Klitschko acted, relatively speaking, and then it was the same with Vasyl Lomachenko, and eventually, all of them evolved over time. However, they didn't engage in any trash talk, they didn't pander to fans, nor did they put on extravagant shows. They simply focused on delivering good sportsmanship. Yet for the American public,
Again, you can do some trash talking, but it should look cool, first of all. It's not like when you were performing in Bulator, you could come up with something. But it might not look good, because it doesn't get hyped like that, People don't promote it that way. But in the UFC, you can say something so basic, and it will fly. So we'll see. I don't mind doing something, playing along with the audience, but I won't do it with blackness. I mean, it's really cool to create such a positive thrash talk, to actually do that. It was, in some way, kind. This is more aligned with what I prefer or enjoy. History, to promote it. But to tease someone, to include facts. Well, first, it already happened. It has happened. And secondly, that's not my style. I'm not that kind of guy.
Listen, if we loudly raise the topic of Ukraine-Russia, won't it be perceived there? What do you think? Well, look, there are Russians there, and you go in and say, I'll destroy you all there, you've come to kill my people, and so on. These are very important topics, and it seems to me that it is not always correct to play on them. On the other hand, raising this topic, allowing this audience to say, see what the Russians are doing.
The key is not to restart everything, putting this guy aside. You can't create this scenario. You must build on it, improvise. That's where the real thrill is, improvising, hitting it once.
I've tossed him a few. That's why I think it's a real mess. Listen, do the people who do it seem prepared, or is it just them?
Do they improvise? I'm unique. For instance, I'm Kobe Covington.
You guys talking about Marty's hair? He's got 30% of his hairline left. Isn't that disgusting?
I mean, he's an absolute moron, completely lacking any sense. He's just a total jerk, really. The way he talks is just so trashy. He constantly crosses the line, never knowing when to stop. He calls everyone names and even goes as far as to hurt families with his words. He talks about his family. There are cool people, like Mirab. I enjoy his positive trash talk. It's always in the background, always present, always so positive. He never sends anyone away or anything like that. There are some guys who don't have a thrash vibe, but take Dustin Perry, for example, he definitely does. I'm like that too. He's got the trash talk. He's a cool fighter. Just cool, yeah. He's on his own. He's really cool. He can just sit down and he's already got that cool vibe.
Can you easily understand how it happens? I can't grasp how wrestling in America attracts a larger audience than the UFC.
It's quite puzzling to me. People watch it, fully aware that it's not real, yet they continue to watch, getting excited. They have their own heroes and know all the figures involved. Notably, no one can predict the winner. They have champions, but the outcome remains unknown. It's just a champion who changes according to the script, that's all. Right?
Would you get involved in something like that in the future?
No, it's not very interesting.
They're making some crazy money over there. Really big money.
But we're not in it for the money.
Okay, when you signed with the UFC, you can reveal a little bit, conditionally, you're not just the first fighter to come in. You came in with a title, you came in with a status. This is not your first contract. The first contract, if I'm not mistaken, is $20,000. People don't come in. As far as I understand it, the agreement is that you fight, there is a certain amount of money. If you win, you keep it. You take everything. If you lose, you get 50%. Right?
The typical standard contracts are, you fight there, 20 plus 20. Yes, that's what it's called. 20 plus 20. It's something like 20 is yours for exit, 20 for victory. Generally 40, yeah. We've discussed it already. The fact that there are such fixed status fees. Yes, these are oldies, so to speak. They come out and he has a set fee.
The amount can reach there, even up to $1 million, relatively speaking.
It could actually be more than that. Plus, there are additional sponsorships, TC. That is, if there's a fee involved. So he just has a fixed fee and that's it.
I've just heard people say that you could have had a bigger contract with Bellator than you have now with the UFC. Would you care to comment?
You may have heard about it, but you don't know. The most important thing is that everything fits me perfectly.
All right. Are you pleased that you managed to break into this story?
To begin with, I'm not worried about any fees. It's obvious that money is great, and it's clear that you need to eat as well, but I understood that if I opened this door and began this journey, everything would naturally fall into place. Even if you aren't doing it for the money, it will still come to you. If you do everything correctly and push forward with determination, putting yourself out there, if you do that, you become even more of a true champion. and everything really sticks with you.
We're in BKZ, the Bochansky Brickyard. That's our location. This is where your story started. You lived here, you're there. Is that where you hid the belt?
Yes, my mom would always hide my belt in that spot. I got the belt for the second time. Lightweight and salvaged. I lived, well, that's about it. 2 windows.
Look, this place is known as one of the largest drug hubs in Irpin. In general, Irpin was considered a city with a significant drug problem. Drug addicts. I truly understand that your story might have taken a different path.
Yes, indeed. You see, the neighborhood is quite small, really. And well, if the district authorities were present, all these guys right here, they were all, as it were, gathered here. So I spent a significant portion of my time out on the street, climbing around, running with the boys, and always trying to connect with someone older than myself. And somehow, things could have taken a wrong turn. There's a story about that. At one point, I came to the realization that I didn't need it and didn't want to go down that road. And I made the decision to go ahead and do it on my own, without any specific dreams or aspirations. My main goal was simply to save myself. On one hand, I wanted to escape and immerse myself in sports to make a change. On the other hand, it's quite understandable. There was a young person who wished to learn how to fight, to protect himself. That's the sort of thing.
How prevalent were drugs in your life? Was there ever a moment when were they offered, given, and so on?
At 13, I tried drugs and that was it. I didn't want to do it again.
What was it? Was it weed? Or is grass not a drug?
No, it's not. It was like a drug. In that sense, it was just a typical drug.
What do you want to say? So many years have passed.
I don't want to. That's all. And then I realized that I don't want to. And as for the weed or something else, in that time was definitely present. Let's put it that way to be clear. And well, I really didn't want to do it.
You gave it a try, and then you felt bad about it. Or perhaps were you afraid you'd get dragged into this mess? Many who tried couldn't get over it.
I suddenly realized that this is how it all begins. I can't say I was particularly excited or full of enthusiasm, but I understood that this could lead to the end of everything. I did not want to gaze at the stars while in this state, and I didn't want that.
Many of your acquaintances here couldn't stay on this path. What happened to them?
Well, there are some vegetables. Every neighborhood has its share of kids who just can't seem to quit. We know their appearance and understand their lives.
You showed us here a particular place, and in that location, essentially everything continues as it always has, right?
Everything's still the same. Well, I don't go there anymore, but I know what's going on because I hear about it from the guys. Still, it's just the same there. Just imagine, we used to run and hang out there together. Some managed to quit, and some didn't. And it turned out that... Anyway, there are a lot of sad stories. Well, in my opinion, experimenting with drugs back then wasn't a very good idea. I wouldn't want my son to do that.
You were in Irpin when the full-scale war began, witnessing everything firsthand. Russians frequently claim that reports about Irpin Buchia, including the killing of civilians, are false and fabricated. How would you explain to a neutral person what truly happened and what they were like? What are your arguments to prove this is true? What would you say to someone?
Well, if someone is convinced and wants to believe it's fake, then it will be hard for you to show or tell them anything. You just have to present it and demonstrate it to them. I don't know, just this 2-story building, there was a similar building right here. Now it's not here anymore. Initially, it was full scale. Something came in. Honestly, I have no idea. But I was present when it was just ruins. It's challenging to explain things to individuals like that. I believe you need to demonstrate it to them so they can truly feel it. Because if people don't have that feeling or don't witness it firsthand, then if they are exposed to fake news, they will believe it's fake. You show them images and they will accept it. And this street, I believe everyone has seen it, this Bukanska street, where all the people were lying down? Yes, people were lying down. Were you present at that time? Yes, we definitely went there. Well, we are no longer there, but yeah, it was quite difficult. Because you see civilians there who, These aren't men. It's just some elderly woman. You can tell she was riding a bicycle, she was shot, and she's been lying there for a long time, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And there are families, women. It's truly hard to witness that. There were quite a few of them, more than you would expect to see in such a place. And they were simply scattered all over the street, just lying there as if it was the most normal thing in the world.
Were there a lot of people lying on the street?
Yes, they were. Were there many people just lying there? Yes, there were. Nobody cleaned them up. Nobody did anything about it. They were simply lying there on the street. It was during the first day or two. We were just heading there. No one was completely sure that there wasn't anyone there anymore. Yes, that's the moment. I might have filmed something somewhere before, but my desire was simply to walk down that Apatrava street. It was quite challenging for me to perceive this. Whenever it becomes difficult for me to look at something, my instinct is to want to escape from the situation. It was the same later on. People were sitting during the occupation, and some of them weren't even aware that the occupation had ended, because by then we had started distributing some food there. My friend and I took a Volkswagen van and filled it up with bread. It was really warm. People brought it, and we drove around shouting, handing out bread. Some didn't even know when they came out. They began to cry as soon as they took the bread, and when you return the bread to them, they cry even more, start kissing you, hugging you tightly. You can understand their emotions, but it was so difficult for me to handle that I would give the bread away. I would say to myself, they really need this bread. Hand them the bread, turn on the program, and leave quickly because I couldn't endure it every time. There was an elderly woman there, for instance, a grandmother, just a woman, and they would start crying. Even the men were there, and you find yourself utterly shocked by it all. They had been there for a long time. It's cold. Those idiots are running around, walking back and forth. With interesting stories, this is my garage. Someone once stole my moped and bike here. Who? I don't know. A neighbor saw it at 4 a.m. but thought it was me. Oh, you were here at 4 a.m.? Yes, but why didn't he come over and check? Why he didn't ask? Yarik, it's 4 a.m. You should be tinkering with your moped, asleep. But it's fine.
Listen, yet on the other hand, we are modeling. The situation is this. You wake up and notice that my actions are stealing your peace.
What do? I call the police.
Returning to our situation, you would make a call to police. So you wouldn't have handled this guy?
No, I wouldn't have contacted the police. I would have managed it on my own. Yes, I would have said, this belongs to me, return it. I would have placed it in the garage, and that's it. Knock, knock. It was Yulia who hung them up there. Honestly, I really don't like it at all in that way.
Look, there are no pictures of children, no family. There are photos of you and the dog.
Well, the dog is just very important in our family.
How was sparring with Usyk? How did you feel overall? How seriously did you work? Were there any restrictions? About the fact that you two have different weights?
Do you think it was difficult or simple? It's intriguing. It was like this. You know, we attended training, and that was it. Just like that in the morning. Bring the helmet. I got it all. And that's it. Off we went.
Oh, he told you? You were training, and he said, take it.
A helmet? We'd train in the morning, and he said, take a helmet. What did I tell him? I said, bring your wrestling shorts with you.
Oh, good afternoon. If you were to enter MMA and then come out of it, they could fight using their hands and feet, couldn't they?
What sort of provocative questions are these? I really need to inform Sonia now?
But seriously, what do you actually think?
No, truly, in reality. But every athlete, you really should have seen it. This is where I belong, you know? Boxing is truly his element. I believe he is ready to embrace this challenge. Uncle Sonia, please don't take offense. Every athlete has faith in themselves, no matter the circumstances. They always believe in their abilities. I rent my house, so let me show you what I have here. We haven't cleaned it, and we're not planning to clean it. Many of the boys are familiar with the Rugbist. This wall, the ceiling, and this other wall were crafted by the Rugbist and his brother. Parts of their work remain here. Were you friends with him? I mean, we trained extensively, attended training camps, met up in various places, and even went out to eat together, things like that. We were always texting, and it was consistently interesting to hang out with him, you know, to have conversations. He was a nice person. We saw him do it several times. He was making a recording on Instagram, wearing our classic outfits. And here is my wife, Yulia Amosova.
Thank you for getting started.
This place you're seeing is our warehouse. We bring everything here. Yulia doesn't throw anything away, so sometimes I don't even have a place to put my t-shirt.
Speaking of the t-shirt, you have launched your brand Very Cool Stuff, and we are going to give away one t-shirt among all the people who donate 50 hryvnias or more to the team for the rehabilitation of sniper Yevhen Shumil. We will join the big fundraiser for him. So dear friends, please appreciate this brand. If you want, you can buy it directly. We'll link our Instagram in the video. Please join our donation drive. Let's not just watch the video, but also do a good deed.
We'll choose whoever wants to participate. We have many plans, but for now we only have t-shirts. They're on sale now. Each person picks one, and we select the size. We haven't finished the repairs and live like this, choosing not to complete them in our loft. Everything that involves training is just brought here and left in this room. They also leave the vacuum cleaner in here. All sorts of random stuff like junk ends up in my room. I don't have any shelves to store things. I can't hang anything because I have no bars. There's really nothing here for organization. Everything feels very childish, yet no children actually live in this room. We even have a cot set up here. Whenever someone spends the night, they use this space. The children just come in to play here. We could easily set up a bed, but we've decided not to do that. However, we are all honest. We never bother making our beds. The four of us sleep here, just like this. We simply fall down. We have a crib, but it has never been used for 2 children. Yes, 2, we had 2. And I say, we won't buy a second crib, because the children just won't sleep. We had 2 cots, and the kids never slept on them. They always slept with us.
Actually, there are 3 additional floors here where people reside, but we were not permitted to visit them. By the way, for those curious about what's hidden on the 3rd floor, subscribe to our YouTube channel, to Yaroslav's channel. You might receive a gift, as our hero and his wife will select the best comment. So, please, get creative and write down what you think is secret. It's tucked away in Yaroslav Amosov's attic.
Well, generally speaking, we sort of knew each other before then, but I had only met her about 2 or 3 times. Each time she seemed different to me. I would try to flirt with her, but she would call me by name and I looked at her like that, thinking we knew each other. Then one day I suggested meeting her at the train station to take her to her friend's house. Then we left, had breakfast, and then I attended a meeting, and a couple of weeks later, we had a conversation over the phone.
During that call, we came to an agreement that we would move in together. There wasn't any need for us to meet in person and hold hands for years. We would understand if it was right after living together. A month or 2 of not being the right match for one another.
Well, to determine if it was a yes or no.
You just got back from the UFC. Did you visit the UFC to help or watch the fight?
Right before the fight, we ended up flying with the kids. We were in the States for 4 months in May, and it was time to decide on signing Yaroslav to the UFC. When we realized preparation was near, we packed up and returned home with the kids so he could prepare and gather his team at home. We rented it. Well, we lived right there in the black, as they say, quarters. Right in this, not directly, you could say.
We live in a black neighborhood. Figure it out, people.
They might perceive it as a form of racism. Is it a black neighborhood? Yes, indeed.
You need to manage these phrases a little better.
Well, how do you refer to him? A ghetto? We do.
We lived with the ghetto. Generally speaking, overall, it's cool.
How is it cool? You can't go there.
And then she told me not to walk there in the evening.
The ghetto, I didn't really know what it looked like and what it was and why this neighborhood could be called that. But when we drove by, it was there. You can notice the bars and locks on the windows and the dark-skinned people. They remind you of that a little bit. They're wild in that area.
Did anyone harass you? Did they demand anything, money or your phone?
Yes, one night someone demanded something from Yaroslav.
I'd say I was pressured.
Imagine a UFC fighter's phone being taken on the street. How would it sound?
No. They only noticed you were wearing glasses that you didn't have before.
I was wearing these meth glasses, and I decided to go listen to some music. I always take a walk in the evening around my camp. So I was walking, but I ended up going slightly in the wrong direction. Then, when they approached me, he just steps out of his house just like that and walks over to me. I pause the music, and it's like something's flashing like music. He comes over, notices it, and he's like, "Hey man, what are you filming?" Like, guys, he's filming. And as I was leaving, they were still shouting at me. However, I couldn't quite make it out because, firstly, it was happening so quickly. So, generally speaking, they need to be understood too, you know. Their dialect is characterized by a tendency to swallow their words, making it challenging to always clearly understand what they are saying.
They find it strange that, white people walk around their neighborhoods. It's like reverse racism.
Yes, there is black racism.
It's not about racism. I feel like we might be, Arlie, I sincerely apologize to you.
We visited a store located right next to our house where we currently rent. They're constructing a police station directly across the street, so it's somewhat safer there now. When I entered the store, I went to buy water, and they stared at me like I was lost somewhere, swimming in the wrong place.
Honestly, nobody has anything against black people. I have many friends, Americans, that I talk to. It's just not because of what's over there black people live here. It's not about their skin color. It's about the neighborhood.
We experience it too. There are many disadvantaged areas throughout Ukraine. Yes, everywhere. This community isn't defined by skin color.
In your interviews, you often touch on topics like weight loss and getting back into shape. I'm curious, how do you gain weight after a fight? You say you get up to 98 to 100 kilograms?
Well, I'm at the ideal weight. Perfect. 95.5.
It's like a psychological thing. I need to relax this month and eat whatever I want. Or do you feel comfortable at this weight? Do you want some or eat this? Why is it that you always have to?
It's what we refer to as an eating disorder. And this is a condition that affects all athletes because you restrict yourself like everyone else.
You still believe it's dough, and it should fly regardless. There's definitely a place for it. I find myself getting high on peanut butter and pistachio paste. The latter is my guilty pleasure, something I indulge in at night. I just wake up suddenly, bang, 3 in the morning. It's like I'm not in control. I simply wander around like a zombie. We have a freezer, and I open it like this. I cut off a piece of ice cream and pour pistachio paste over it. I just pour it out like this. At night, I stand there, eating and pondering, feeling the thrill of it all. I eat and then head to bed just like that. When morning comes, I wake up, drenched in sweat, wondering why I did it. But you don't have control over it, you just do it automatically. You dial in, or at least I did, around 77, then got a series of 87, 86, 87, so a tenner or two got stuck there. After the fight, within a few days, 1, 2, 3, it goes to 93, 95, 96. Then you continue eating for weeks, and for those first 2 weeks, you gaze at food as if it might be the last time you'll see it. You gain, but then you calm down and begin a process of training. You simply start to eat, and you continue on this path, focusing on your goals and maintaining your discipline. You descend once more to 92 minus 90. The camp begins, and you find yourself at 89 minus 87. Gradually, you start progressing towards the destination.
In 2013, before all the major events, you attended a tournament where
He was sitting in the hall.
another president, Vladimir Putin. Beside him were Medvedev and Nazarbayev, Emelianenko, Ovechkin. Do you recall the moment when you were present, or did you anticipate it being there?
It was among the initial international tournaments I attended, for the professionals. It was in Sochi. Yes, back then I just didn't give it much thought. Well, they are situated where they are. I came here to focus on my own goals. I didn't experience the same sense of awe, like some presidents or something like that. I didn't have that feeling back then. I doubt that even now I would be taken by surprise. Well, if we are talking about whether I had seen them, I certainly would have. I was surprised. But in general, when I see people like that, I'm not really surprised.
Listen, I was just reading about that tournament, and they said that it was a tournament where they had to show cool the moves were, how well they fought. And here you came out under the flag of Ukraine and basically beat the guy who was supposed to beat you in all the ways. well, win this fight in all the statistical approaches, experience, and so on, but you won then. Well, I mean, it's just that probably a different scenario was planned a little bit.
I thought so too. Now I realize that, most likely, maybe so. But, well, I was going to fight. I didn't have any thoughts about anything there. When I go to a tournament, I think about the tournament, I think about my opponent, and that's it. Nothing else, no thoughts, no other thoughts.
Look, back then you were, as I understand it, involved in the Sambo Federation. You came from them, and Viktor Medvedchuk was the head of the Sambo Federation, the honorary president, right? I understand that he was a very close person to the entire organization, right? Yes. So, did you know him well, or did he just come by and tell you something?
Where could he have possibly come from? He didn't arrive anywhere. There was no such thing as us being in the hall. He did come to the gym. It wasn't about me giving us something for nothing.
We watched videos while preparing. And what's interesting is when you won, it was given to you. A certain flag. Do you remember what kind of flag it was or not?
The flag? I only remember the cup.
No, it was given to you by someone from your side, I don't know, a coach or someone else. No, it was not a Ukrainian flag. It was the flag of Medvedchuk's organization, Ukrainian Choice. It was a rocking organization, pro-Russian super politics. They threw you not a Ukrainian flag, but a flag of Ukrainian Choice, right after the battle.
Maybe.
I understand that you were 20 years old at the time and probably didn't think about it at all. But I'm curious, how do you view those events in that tournament now?
Quite harshly, very harshly. In this regard, I realized that no one really understood what would begin in 2014 or what would happen in 2022 and during that period. Something needed to be done, something had to be initiated. That's probably why I don't remember it well, because back then it wasn't significant to me, and I didn't grasp what was happening. When you think about it, there are many things that occurred in your life that you hadn't considered before. I didn't know where it could lead. That is, it leads to a certain outcome, and you might not grasp what it is. You don't really think about it. However, now, particularly after the year 2022, we all comprehend numerous situations, various different, relatively minor advertisements, some kind of additions, and other things for which all this was orchestrated. So now, you already understand where you were, what was placed upon you, and the reasons behind certain actions. This is a different story. But this one, the period of time, the 13th year, and I don't even remember whether it was 13 or 14, and you even seem to...
I'll give you a little context. At that time, the media reported that Medvedchuk had gone to talks with Putin, and Medvedchuk was unhappy that Yanukovych was leading Ukraine to Europe. So he said, if he takes us to the European Union, we want a customs union with Russia and Kazakhstan. That is this one. The tournament was unfolding in a particular way, you know, and you were part of this story as well.
Perhaps. I mean, what I'm trying to say is that now you might be able to understand what it's all about. Sort of. I was doing it. During that time, I was truly myself. Sporty, I have an opponent, everything, you know. The coach said, let's go. Yeah, that's it. I'm going. I'm fighting. I remember what I remember so clearly after this fight. It was incredibly hard for me. It was on the waterfront, and there was a city, like a pier, and it was like on water, figuratively. I just went out, fell into the water, and lay there in that water. I was shocked that I felt so bad. I don't remember anything. Then I came to, the tournament ended, and I returned back.
Listen, but you were picked up then, a picture of you standing there, all with Putin. That was before. How did you fall?
No, it was the conclusion of the tournament. Yeah, so they gathered everyone together. Do you recall that moment? Yes, that's what I remember, that we were all gathered, all lined up. There were 2 or 4 main fights, and I distinctly remember 2 guys who fought there. They fought, if I recall correctly. One was against an American, while the other faced either a Brazilian or an American. Well, this one was also present there. It's a classic Russia-America tale.
Was it perhaps a battle of wills?
Yes, indeed. And, well, the Russians prevailed.
Listen, I'm not sure. It's just a feeling for you. Was it cool to take that photo?
Back then, did I understand anything? Nah, I was just some kind of athlete.
You know, you suddenly come to the realization that you've been completely and utterly messed up.
It's quite a story now, you know. Not very pleasant. when you thought it over, the way she changed direction, you know? Everything shifted in a completely different way. And now you have this sort of understanding that, well, there, the person standing with you, he was taking pictures with him, or rather, we all were taking pictures with him back then. And you realize he wasn't surprised by his actions. And now, just like you, no matter how you slice it, back then it was one way, but now it's entirely different. When you think about it,
Did you realize it in your head, what it was? You didn't realize it now.
well, perhaps in 22, when it had already turned so completely, specifically. It also turned around in 14, just like that. That particular period of time, many people have moved past it and are over it now. There is one thing I didn't quite grasp, and I am one of those people. You don't fully get it either? I mean, I think, I don't want to say, yeah, I'm justifying myself here. I didn't comprehend what was happening back in 2014, and I feel embarrassed about that. I'm embarrassed that I didn't understand, and I'm ashamed of it. It really bothers me that I didn't get it. And me, I didn't want to understand it, understand it. But when I was already, they came to your house, knocked, they almost grabbed me by the ass, and I was like, oh, I understand everything. Yeah. And I was like, when you talk to some people who say, well, it was different in 14, it was different there. So they start justifying themselves, like it was not clear there. Everything was the same, it just wasn't on the same scale. It wasn't merely that strong. However, since 14, the people there have been enduring a great deal of suffering. Perhaps it's not on that scale. I think it's not that scale.
How did you explain it to yourself? Now you say you were wrong. How did you explain it, or were you just in your own sports world? You still traveled to Russia, communicated often with them, because it's a big market. You even had a promotional campaign with Russians, right? Did you ever discuss this in any way, such as Crimea or Donbas?
No, we never engaged in such conversations regarding political issues or any of those matters. What? Well, we didn't. We were involved in sports and didn't delve into politics there. For some reason, nobody ever brought up this subject.
Avoided the subject, didn't you? You didn't bring it up in conversations or anything like that. You just often met with athletes, competed against them, and so on.
I didn't understand or want to. I'm not saying I'm not responsible. I don't want to make excuses. Yes, there's a slight issue. And I don't want to sweat or wag my finger, insisting that it's somehow wrong, or that I was misinformed, misunderstood, or anything else. This is the kind of mistake I make, and I accept it, feeling ashamed. Like in that song, Forgive Me Guys. Considering that I was in the ATO, I have to say this entire song truly encompasses everything explains.
Tell me, what keeps you motivated during tough times in training?
Well, about how things used to be hard, but they might get even harder. I remember moments when I realized that it's even harder for the guys fighting on the front lines.
You always think about that?
Well, not always, but I often think about it. It's not like it's always on my mind, but sometimes I catch myself thinking, it could definitely be worse, and you really have no right to complain. Regarding those guys who are saying that tomorrow they'll kill us, it will be like a war in a cage. However, you don't truly understand what it is you're talking about. It's not that I harshly condemn them as they're merely speaking, but sometimes we say things without fully grasping the true essence of those words. I believe they have their own story. They're simply in the mood for a grand fight and are prepared to battle. They just declare it's a war, and that's all there is to it. Because, in war, if you die yourself, you might not even feel it. But if your best friend dies, or your family, or someone else, I don't know, it seems to me that's much harder. That happens more often there. In any case, war is hard. It's not a cage.
We've known each other our whole lives. Ever since the maternity ward. Yes, really. I even remember when they brought him in, and Grandma shouted, "My grandson." It was such a joyful occasion. We've been friends ever since that day. Our stepfather drove us to our first training session at Hermes. We headed to the training hall, where we met Makkah Muhammad, our friend, and the guy he was beating up. As well as our coach Makola, who was yelling, "Harder, harder, come on." I wondered, where had we ended up? But we liked it. We got hooked, and from that moment on, if my memory serves me right, Yarok hasn't missed a single practice. I once told him that your character should definitely be in the UFC game.
Anyway, when we entered the gym, I finished my last cigarette. It was then that I realized I'm staying here and leaving this entire story behind me. The most enjoyable moment is when you return to the sauna. It's essential to sit and let yourself cool down here. Afterward, you soar upwards and feel as if you're drifting into space. You fly up, feeling dizzy. I told him we had to pretend we do this every day in cold water.
Listen, where have you taken the hardest hits in your career?
You might feel pain afterward, but you keep going anyway. Then, especially in the morning when you wake up, and you realize that it's almost over for you, like the final stop, and you have to melt this plasticine, get rid of the pain. Otherwise, nothing like that, unless it really hits the liver. The liver, yes. That's pretty unpleasant.
Tell me, how did you develop your signature move, the Anaconda? Has it been a lifelong process?
You could say it was all my life.
Do you choke your opponent with the Anaconda hold?
Yes, indeed. I crafted it for the first time when I was 19 years old. The boys taught me how to do it. We were heading to a tournament in a week or two. They demonstrated it to me. I made it at the tournament, and ever since then, I'm sort of updating it. You're consistently bringing everything beneath it. You gain knowledge from the surf. There are people who really know how to defend themselves. Against her, they're watching you too, and they always know you're dangerous. Listen, they're watching a lot of people, and everyone knows there's someone among them who's a great fighter, but they still let his punches land.
You once said that at 32, you feel better than you did at 25, in terms of feeling your body, preparation, and mind.
Mentally. Pebble.
Can you explain this to us? What does the pebble mean?
You know, you're already so toughened up. You've been through quite a lot and witnessed much. Mentally, you're already operating on a different level. It's really difficult to surprise you with anything. At the age of 25, you're still at the start of your professional career, I would say. When you're 32, you've already seen and gone through a lot. It's hard to be surprised. I mean, you're ready for anything. You are ready to endure, especially since there have been so many weight cuts, so many missed punches, so many things have happened. Now, it can be quite challenging to figure out how to escape from this kind of situation, how to navigate through these overwhelming feelings. For instance, I am aware of the times when I find myself struggling psychologically, the specific days when things feel particularly tough, and what happens afterward. I'm not feeling well. I didn't realize it before. If you went to the sauna and got a massage on Saturday, you should take a break on Sunday.
Have you ever gotten high from fighting, and do you still, or is it a strain?
What kind of fighting?
Any fighters. You said you wanted to show yourself. Was it a cool emotion, or was it simply an experience? You know what kind of people get a high from this, right? For some individuals, it's just a job.
The greatest thrill comes when you have a good fight, and they raise your hand if you did well. It's an incredible thrill when they raise your hand, and it's like taking the first breath. And there, even if you look at the weights, you can see after the fights, I take my first breath and I pull it right in. I think to myself, F, because I feel a high from knowing that it's finally over. Just think about it. Imagine 2 to 3 months of intense training, the weight cutting, the fighting, and all the history behind it. And now it's all come to an end. All the discipline you maintain, the effort to reach your peak, everything is now behind you. It concludes, and now it's time for a break, you know. And if it's a challenging battle, meaning it's a close one, then it feels different.
Look, in your historical profile, you have 99.9% victories, but there was one loss, and I heard you mention that it was quite challenging mentally. How did you manage to overcome it?
This chapter needs closure. Really? Yes, it was, The initial feelings were intense, I would say, but gradually, slowly, bit by bit. My friends really helped and supported me. Andrea is both my manager and my wife. Both of them told me, and they asked me to make a promise to them. I have an issue. I've always trained extensively. This type of training might not be beneficial for you. After the fights, I don't take a long break. Within just a couple of days, I'm already back at it, doing something. I promised them that I wouldn't engage in any activity for an entire month. Not at all. Well, I ended up weighing 100 kilograms because I gained quite a bit of weight. It was really challenging to return and get back into shape. And the support of people really, I was, surprised, because I initially thought it would be a story of a kid who got knocked down and sidelined. However, people supported me, and it felt really good.
I feared imagining a defeat might occur someday, especially because he told me that if he experienced even one defeat, well, at first he said that if he had at least one defeat, that would be it. Like he wouldn't continue because he couldn't handle it morally. After some time passed, his perspective shifted a little, and he explained to me that having that zero was exerting psychological pressure on him. In other words, the responsibility of having numerous victories with zero defeats places far more pressure on an athlete compared to when there is at least one defeat. When it happened, Vanechka and I, being younger and in a different time zone, woke up at 3 a.m. to watch the fights. And when, I realized that, he had lost, I wasn't sure, but I was thinking about what I could say to him to stop him from ending his career. This realization hit me at that moment. We'll give each other a call, and he'll share the details with me. So we reached out to him. You informed me. That's all. Cow, cacao. All right, cow, cacao. Ciao, ciao, yes, Chaco MMA. I'll consider my next steps. I no longer have the desire to engage in fighting. And he left we are unable to fly directly to Ukraine. Instead, he traveled to Poland, and I went there to meet him. At the border by the foot, we were traveling and began discussing the idea that there is indeed a conclusion careers. You really need to rethink your entire training process.
It was during that training, at least partially. Not throughout the whole period, but she was there at some point, and you need to reconsider it overall.
You really need to rethink your entire training process. Well, because he managed everything on his own, he took charge of all aspects himself. He crafted his own training regimen, and he never considered rest as part of the training process. He overtrained, indeed. Yes, he overtrained. It was evident in every single training session throughout every session in his entire career. And I consistently reminded him of that. If you're overtrained, stop. Wait for a day and then take a break. But he never did. Not once. You see, the plowman, we discussed how if you ever feel like stopping, you really don't have to keep going. No one will judge you for deciding to quit. However, you have ambitions, don't you? You have that drive and desire, a dream. If you do, to return and release, to calm down and refocus on the dream, you need to reevaluate the training process and reset.
As I was leaving the hotel, I ran into Robbie Lawler. He's truly a legend in the UFC. He looked at me and said, "Kid, this stuff will either break you or make you stronger." I listened to him and realized he experienced many defeats before his winning streak and title defenses began, I would say. Hearing it directly from him, specifically. And he passed everything on to me, and I truly felt it deeply. I thought to myself, well, I'll consider it. Surprisingly, it actually made me stronger. In the moment, I felt glad that it happened. The things I wanted to change, to alter, to add or remove, to make any adjustments in my training, I hesitated. I thought, well, the bike is already turning, everything is in motion, so why change anything? As a result, I paused in my development, so to speak. But eventually, when I came to realize, I felt like I had to do everything. And I did manage to do it all, but I felt different somehow.
What were they that you'd never be a champion again?
I don't want to do this now.
You don't want to, huh?
I believe I'll remain at home and look after the children. That's it. That's what I intended to do. However, I don't do that to strain, to order, to begin. I didn't want to do anything at all. I desired to train somewhere for myself, but overall, I wanted to spend more time with my family.
Following the defeat, he didn't train for an entire month. Afterward, he went to a training camp in Borinchik. They're boxers, and they approach things a little differently. However, he noticed that professional athletes have the opportunity to rest and that they also adjust their training loads accordingly. He was able to manage the loads quite well. Then, he encountered a new coach. He thoroughly transformed his training process.
I met the new coach. At the time, we were training with Yegor Golub. I even went through one training session with him. After that, we trained together in Spain.
You need someone who can tell you to stop. You know, someone who can look at the situation from the outside and say, hey, you need to pause and skip the second training session today. Because if you don't, tomorrow, you won't be able to complete a full workout since you'll be too exhausted from today's overexertion. And when Yegor was training with him, he was precisely that kind of person who could do this. To make adjustments, like to determine the specific type of the load. Yes, the load, precisely what kind it is. You need to assess and understand the nature of the load. I said that to him. Hello, stop. He had been listening to that.
I don't think they canceled practice. No, they didn't. Everything stayed the same, but after practice a little while later, instead of doing the next practice like we used to, whether with Igor or without him, he was already there, as
Stop.
Yeah, calm down, relax. Besides, it's still evening.
Speaking of sports, what would have to happen for you to say to yourself, that's it, my career is complete, I've reached where I wanted to be?
At the very least, win the UFC belt. Actually, win all the belts.
So, is this your global goal in this promotion, in sports?
Yeah.
So this will be your final point, correct? And then you'll hold it?
For this period of time, yes. I'm not sure what's next. First, I need to achieve it, and then we'll see. I can't plan my future. We push back, we improvise, just like in Trash Talk. We encounter a situation, and we start from there. We'll see what happens next. Remember, as I said before, there might be reeds in this area. Maybe we'll be able to push them aside and make our way inside.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Coolest fighter of all time?
It will be in the future.
Your worst injury?
It's the one that is yet to happen.
The greatest athlete in Ukrainian history?
Alexander Usyk. Yes, indeed.
Who do you dream of fighting against?
No, I don't. No, not with Connor.
Your biggest mistake in life?
There were a lot of them.
Well, one that you can accept?
I won't mention it right now. Blitz isn't my story.
Politics? Perhaps not. Haven't you ever thought about going into politics?
Politics, you ask? No, no more.
What does Irpin have that America doesn't?
Everything.
If you met Putin now, what would you do or say to him?
It would be a different meeting.
The biggest fee in your career?
The one that will be.
Usyk's been in several movies. What movie would you want to star in?
It's a dream, but I feel it's unrealistic. I'd love to play a major role, but just act.
What's your biggest weakness when it comes to food?
All kinds of sweets.
How did the last fight on the street end, and what happened?
I don't know. Probably the same chapalaks, I guess. That's it. Nothing.
Chapalaks, what's this?
A cuff upside the head. I did. It wasn't a fight.
So, does it ever happen that people don't recognize you and start hitting on you?
Maybe I'll end up fighting someone myself.
No, it's quite possible that you're not going to fight at all.
Well, I can make a comment and chapalaha.
Straight to the guy?
Even if she's a woman. Listen, that's exactly what the remarks are about. These days you often see a group of young guys in a bar just sitting there and arguing. Of course, I tell them, hey guys, calm it down a bit.
What kind of tracks do you listen to get fired up for a fight? What did you listen to before your UFC debut?
I didn't. I don't listen to much music. In general, like Oki and Elzy, most likely, lately. that day.
You've been there often in Russia. What will people there never understand?
Who we are.
Who's the most famous contact in your phone?
I'm not going to reveal that. I won't say. No, no, no.
Why not tell me?
I have some numbers, but I don't want to show off. For me, the most famous thing is my wife's number.
What are the top photos on your phone?
There are some really cool photos. They are very old, really old ones. Back when I was already bald and holding a knife. I was bald until I turned 23.
You like movies a lot, don't you? You do. Harry Potter or Stranger Things?
Harry Potter. If it's a movie, then Pirates of the Caribbean. It is my absolutely favorite. Absolutely.
What always cheers you up? Come on.
So we could have something to eat, perhaps something sweet. Coffee is one of those things. But depending on your mood, you might feel physically unwell and generally, well, in any case, my people, my family, they always lift my spirits. Children. Well, first of all, you know, when you wake up in the morning, maybe your daughter is already awake. That's it, you're happy now. Daughter and son are different matters. A son might not even greet you, he'll just dash off to do his own thing. My little girl will come to you and cuddle with you. When my daughter was born, I already understood this concept, because it had been explained to me, and I had been told about it multiple times, yet I couldn't grasp it completely. However, when I think back to that moment, I recall I was sleeping in a different room. It was where I was supposed to sleep. We weren't sleeping together then, because now we sleep in fours. I remember waking up late, as they had woken up earlier than me. I had toys in the room. My son came running and grabbed the toy, while my daughter, who was just 1 year old at the time, ran out. She ran to my bed and climbed in. She got under my blanket. We were all alone. Then I realized, what's a daughter and what's a son?
Your son might feel offended, I believe.
Then it dawned on me, who would bring me a glass of water?
Once Ukraine wins the war, the first thing you will do?
I won't rejoice or celebrate. I'll likely sit down and reflect on some memories. I'll remember someone. It won't exactly be joy. It's like a conditional statement that we will achieve victory. I don't believe it will be a victory. It simply can't be considered a victory. Why is that? Because we've lost so many people. Therefore, it can't be a victory. It might just be the conclusion of the war, at least for me. I'm not sure about others. Everyone might have their own feelings. Some might feel happy or something. But for me, it will just signify the end of the war, not a victory.
Have you lost anyone close to you?
I was losing many acquaintances, losing friends. I know many people there, quite a lot of people. Well, in Irpin, burials happen quite frequently. Additionally, we have a group in Irpin that consistently displays graves or something similar. In the center, there's an alley. If you step outside, you'll find it. It's dedicated to all the residents of Irpin who lost their lives in the war, and this alley is very long. It's quite understandable. You walk down this alley and look around. So many familiar faces. Some older, some younger, some, well, there are just so many of them.
Thank you so much.